Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. If some of you, it looks like the impending weather might be keeping some people home, but if some of you do want to move up closer to the front, we've got a couple pretty full slides with lots of information, and it might be easier to read if you're closer to the front. Just as a reminder, we again want to thank the community church, and today's meeting is being recorded and streamed live. It's available for playback on the HOA website, and also it's being live streamed to the Tellico Church video channel. We've got a pretty full agenda today. We've got Pastor Devin, who's going to come up in just a minute, a very quick HOA update, and then a really informative session on cybersecurity, protecting your personal communications. Beth's going to give us the marketing team story. We're going to get an update from Joe on the Tellico Village marketing performance. And we end with beautiful dogs from Smoky Mountain Service Dogs. And then we will have a general Q&A session. Pastor?
Thank you all for being here today. Let's pray. Almighty God, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. I'm thankful for each seat here that's been filled, for each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room. For all those seeking the betterment of this community, Father, we thank you. We thank you for the many blessings that you have given us. We know that while so many lack and are in need, you have blessed us with abundance. So, Father, empower us to serve those in need and to look beyond ourselves. In every project and every season of life, may nothing we do ever be done in vain. May your righteousness transcend all of our efforts and understanding. Bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterward. Ready us to make every moment of our lives count and matter. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And again, we just want to acknowledge the fabulous facility we have here that we can use for sessions like this, and the generosity of the community church at Tellico Village. So a couple quick things on HOA. We actually turned 30 years old this year. So you may want to save two dates. June 20th is going to be a general meeting where we're going to introduce you to village pioneers that are still living here and a little bit about our history. And on August 8th, there's dinner, music, and dancing at the Yacht Club. Plans are still underway, but that dinner dance will probably have a Margaritaville theme, so it should be a lot of fun. We've made a couple changes to our HOA socials, and now they start at 4:30 p.m. They're still the second Tuesday of every month. We are giving you an opportunity to learn briefly about another village organization who will present and educate us there. We continue with fabulous events, and we've got some creative people putting more social into our socials with some kind of fun raffles and contests. And for those of you that are still not completely comfortable with Tellico life, we're going to have experts there at every one of the socials. So if you've got specific questions about what you want to do, join us and come find those people, and they'll help you understand what you need to know. We had a recent survey. Thank you for your valuable inputs. 968 people responded. More than half of those responded for a household, so it was a really great response rate. We also got from you 724 optional comments, which was great. We're sharing them with the POA where applicable, with the social team where applicable, etc. And we'll have a summary of the results out next week. So again, thank you for making the time to help us make HOA better to meet your needs. I'd now like to introduce the two Kens, who are going to talk about how we can be safer in this era or time we live in. So, gentlemen.
Thanks, Ellen. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our joint presentation by the Telco Village Computer Users Club and the Homeowners Association on cyber security. I want to thank all of you for attending today and showing your interest in this important topic. Cybersecurity is a very large and complicated subject. This presentation was developed over the last several months by Ken and myself. And as such, we will be sharing the stage today, so basically it's going to be the Ken and Ken show. So, why an HOA presentation on cybersecurity? This seems a little bit different than a normal general meeting topic. But through the Neighborhood Watch program, HOA strives to help make Telco Village safer for all its residents. And fortunately, we all live in a very safe community. And the small number of minor crimes that we do have are mainly thefts of opportunity. And what I mean by opportunity is such as leaving an unlocked vehicle in the driveway at night, tools left out at a work site, items on a dock, things like that. And so a major function of Neighborhood Watch is to provide homeowners information and preventative suggestions to help protect themselves, such as telling neighbors your traveling plans, closing garage doors, locking car doors, and things like along those same lines. Now, the cyber world is similar, mainly crimes of opportunity, inadequately protecting your data security, and part of living in the digital age is understanding that our private information is now more vulnerable than ever before. While companies and institutions are constantly working to protect themselves with increasing security measures, each of us must play a role in this fight as well. Your computer, tablet, and cell phone contain information that hackers and other criminals would love to have. In a connected world such as we live in, we each have a responsibility to protect ourselves and the people we interact with. And it all starts with understanding cyber security. Our presentation is designed not to scare, but to make people aware of the risks. And hopefully, once you're aware of the risks and some ways to increase security, it will be easier to protect yourself. As cybersecurity is a very complicated subject, we want you to be aware that our presentation must be somewhat general and cannot cover every single threat that may exist in cyberspace. But we feel this presentation will provide you a good start in the education process and a good jumping off point for further research you may want to do. As I said, it's a complicated subject and therefore impossible to cover only in one session. So we have broken it down into 3 sessions in smaller pieces. And the first part is today's presentation, which will provide introduction into cybersecurity and just how big is this issue. And it will provide some suggestions to improve your security. The second part, which will be covered on May 23rd, will cover computer scams and tips to improve financial cybersecurity, very important topics. And sometime this summer, the Neighborhood Watch will conduct a workshop with vendors to provide various methods to protect your home, from simple, being less expensive, from less and simple solutions to more complex and therefore more expensive solutions. To help you take notes, for your note takers and people who want to take more detail, this PowerPoint presentation will be made available online. We will also have additional supporting information online as well. So if you missed something today or want to review more in depth, you can do this later, so don't worry about taking a lot of notes right now. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to Ken, who will kick off the presentation with some definitions.
Okay, thank you. As Ken said, this is a very large and complicated subject, and it's probably pretty new for a whole lot of people. So what I'd like to do first is kind of set a framework, because it's going to seem like, well, you want us to do all this stuff, and it's really complicated, and so this is just too much for me. So let's try and make it in a way that kind of fits with things that you're already doing. We start off pretty simply. I think everybody 16 turned around and said, I want to drive a car. And this is just going to be fun. We're going to grab our keys, we're going to go, get out, won't be doing with the rain today, and so on. And I tend to guess that pretty much everybody here did the same thing, just grabbed their keys, jumped in the car, we're just going to go over to the church and see what's going on. The thing is, reality. It isn't just, I'm going to grab the keys and go. There's a whole lot of things that go into that. You're running around after you find out you got your license, and it's like, I got to do all this stuff to protect myself. I've got to get insurance. I got to make sure the brakes work. Got to make sure the rest of the car is in good mechanical shape. Got to make sure there's enough gas, because I'm not walking home. You got the battery. You got to look around as you're driving. Is the guy drifting over in my lane? Am I getting too close? What's the weather like? All these things are going on. And we all do it. Because this is what we have to do in order to just grab the keys and go. So we'll keep that whole idea, and you don't have to read everything that's there. It's just to show there's a lot of things that you do behind this very simple thing of, I just want to drive my car. The digital world's pretty much the same thing. We start out wanting to just maybe Facebook to see the grandkids, some internet shopping, checking recipes, you know, just doing all sorts of daily things, much like just driving a car. But there's things to be aware of when you're just going on and doing this. So what we want to do is we want to give you some guidelines to fill in, to be those types of things that, you know, you found out you had to do with the car to stay safe. While you were driving, we want you safe while you are using the digital world. A little bit of background. A few of us are a couple days past 16, and we didn't grow up with these in our hands like kids now. So just give a little bit of framework. We've got some terms that we'd just like to give everybody a definition so that as we use them, you understand what we're talking about, hopefully. Cyber. Cyber is a term that means having to do with computers being the ones on your desktop, laptops, tablets, and yes, cell phones. These are all things that deal as in a different world, which is the cyber. And the cyber space is, you take cyber and you add words to it. Cyberspace is the internet and everything around, whether it's your cell system or not. Cyber crime, and those are attacks on computers and phones. Cybersecurity is protecting you. So when you hear cyber, that's what it's dealing with. Now, the cyber world is growing bigger and bigger. I don't know if you're aware of it, but on this first one, the World Wide Web went live on March 12th of 1989. So it's only 30 years old. We've got some statistics on how it's grown. In 2017, there were 3.8 billion internet users, 51% of the population, projecting 75% by 2022 at 6 billion. Data volumes. The amount of data that was recorded for, say, the first 5,000 years, as long as they were been recording, we are now putting so much information on the internet that we put pretty much the equivalent of everything for 5,000 years. That's going up at about every 2 years. We are putting so much information out on this thing called the web. And so, which is great because that gives us access to all that information. But it says that this is a really big thing. Data volumes are going up as we use more and more devices like phones and so on to do things as we do. I don't even carry cash much anymore or whatever. I do everything on my phone. Wearable devices, things like Fitbits and other devices are tagging into this, hooking into your phone. Things are just getting more and more meshed around us. And so the world is looking at 300 billion passwords globally by 2020. Now that's only a little over a year from now. So there are a lot of things going on out there, not just us here in the village. Your cars are going online. It is actually possible to take over control of your car. It has been for some years. The manufacturers are putting in computers and so on so that they can get analytical data on how their vehicles are performing in the real world. Problem is, somebody might hack in and literally defeat your brakes. So things are great, but there's some things that are not. And that's what we want to do, is try and have everybody aware of those things. So how big is cybercrime? All right, so in this slide, we're saying that criminals now are on the FBI's most wanted. It is a crime at the federal level. Identity theft, 60 million people. U.S. government's going to spend $15 billion on cybersecurity. Guess who's number one for attacks? The U.S. Who's affected in the U.S. and really every place? Everyone. You cannot get off the grid. I'm sorry. You can say, well, I'm not going to use my credit card to purchase. I'm not going to do all these things. I'm not going to have a computer, phone. Doesn't matter. You exist in cyber world, and you don't have a choice about that. And we want you to realize that so that you understand that you need to take steps, even though they might seem like a pain to do, to stay safe. The reason is your medical records, you get an x-ray, it's digitally transmitted over to your doctor. So your medical records are out there in the cyber world. A bank exchange, that's done all electronically. So your bank records, whether you are checking or not. Social Security is electronically depositing your checks now. They're not sending out the ones in the mail. So you really cannot get away from being in the cyber world. Who's targeting you? Well, there's a lot of criminal organizations out there that are. There's hackers, and there's both professional and amateur. The professionals do it for money, and they may be government sponsored. You just do not know where it's going to come from. So how do you start protecting yourself? Well, the biggest thing to do is a password. Think of a password as being much like the key that you use to lock the door on your house, lock the door on your car. You don't want to, people don't want to use passwords. Why? They're a pain to remember and so on. Why do I have to do that? Well, why do you have to lock your car? So you really do want to start working on passwords. And the cartoon is kind of an amusing thing with the woman saying, and it could be a guy, so we don't want to start that, saying that my password is again. Whenever I forget my password, computer message says, try again. No joke, kids. These are passwords they use. The number one password used is password. That's not good. And people think, well, I'll be real clever. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on up through 9, I'll go 9, 8, 7. These are very simple things for computers to break. The longer the password is, the combination of letters and digits goes up just orders of magnitude. So where you might use 8 letters, meaning characters, numbers, whatever, If you use 10, it's going to be harder to break. Use 12, harder still, and on and on. And so you're trying to make it harder. Here's the thing, 12 letters or characters. You don't want things that are dictionaries, ordinary names, your birthday, your anniversary, your dog's name, all those things, because people can find out things about you, such as your anniversary, from public records. They can find out things where you went to school, any number of things. So you want to try to avoid things that somebody may be able to get a hold of. You want to mix it up using variations on capitalization, punctuation, special characters, $sign, %sign, so on. Okay, you can take a sentence and turn it into a password. Personally, I'm going to have a real hard time with the first one, with the WOO, exclamation, and so on, to remember that as woohoo, the Patriots won the Super Bowl. Put the Bears in, put in whoever you want, doesn't matter.
I wrote that one.
He owned up to it. I didn't do it. Didn't do the second one either. I like to play pickleball every day of the week at Telego Village. It's kind of hard looking at that to get it. One of the other things you can do, and what they taught us at the company I worked for, is you can take something like live for today and just find a different way. If you look at L, exclamation, VE, and then FOUR, TD, at, for the A, Y, you can read live for today, and you can remember it easier. That is a little bit easier to remember, and that's a good number. So that type of thing where you mix up something is a good way to do it, because you're not going to look that up, and it'll take quite a long time. Hopefully, just like having a strong lock on your house, they'll go to somebody else. What do you do with your passwords? Well, yeah, people do that. They got little sticky notes, and they leave them all around, and so on, and of course the wind blows them away or whatever, and then it's like, I can't find my password. So you try and remember them. Puzzles, trying to remember my passwords is all the mental stimulation I need. Who needs to do the other puzzles when you can just try and remember your password? You can load them into a file and keep that file on your computer. And one problem, forget the password to get in. That could be a problem. But the most effective way is a program called a password keeper. There's a whole bunch of them out there. And what these password keepers do is they can actually even generate. You can tell it to generate some 20-letter password for you and fill it in, and you don't have to remember. And there's one that'll show a little bit better than what this one generated. But then what you do is you simply go down, you scroll down in your browser, and you hit Macy's or whatever. It goes to the Macy's site as if you were opening the browser and typing in Macy's and so on, and then answering the password or the credentials to get in. This just automates it. So that really is what it is. It's a storage and automation tool. These are some of the ones that are out there. Norton bundles them in and any number of other places. And we're not going to recommend any one, but PC Magazine has said that these are some of the best. Next year it could change. Now we'll ask a question, how should you do passwords? Number one, you want to do strong ones, real ones. You want to have a safe strategy for keeping these passwords, and please strongly consider using a password keeper. And let's see, am I doing that one? No. Oh. Yes. Going to you. So again, please watch the passwords.
On those password keepers, we'll have on the website, the HOA website, we'll have additional information for links to the, for password keepers, also free password keepers. So there'll be ratings on there, you can look at it. You know, passwords, I've heard passwords should be like underwear. Don't let people see it, change it very often, and you shouldn't share with strangers. An easy way of thinking about it. All right, now seriousness. Okay, a couple words you've heard many times, virus and malware. What are they? How do you get them? How do you prevent getting them? And what do you do if you get them? And I think the picture says a lot there. Well, I told you not to open that attachment, because that's one way you get attachments. So, so what are they, and how do they differ? Well, a virus is a piece of code that is capable of copying itself, and eventually. Now, some viruses don't do damage, some do damage, but most will do damage, and they will go from computer to computer, and that's why it's called a virus. You're infected, and you can infect other people as well. Now, malware is another term. It's more in the news now. It stands for malicious software. The mal comes from malicious and ware from software. It's an umbrella term. It covers a lot of different items, including, and these are terms which are out there in this cybersecurity world, Trojan, spyware, worms, adware, ransomware. We'll talk about ransomware in a minute. And yes, viruses. So a virus is a malware. Viruses have been around for a long time. You've been hearing about that, and haven't changed that much. They aren't used very often by today's cyber criminals. So, how do you get these? One way is through downloads. Anytime you're downloading, you should perform a scan on that download. You should know where that download's coming from. You should think about if you're going to download a pirated movie or music files. You've got to think about where the source is coming from before you actually want to do that. Think twice. On emails, another way to get these viruses and malware. You should never open an attachment from someone you don't know, from an unfamiliar email address. And even if you know that person, don't make the mistake of trusting that just because it seems to be coming from someone you know. They could have a virus in their system, not even know it, and pass it to you, so be careful there as well. If it looks suspicious, a good rule of thumb, it looks suspicious, don't open the attachment. And I'll be frank here, I get emails from some friends, and I look at it and I think, well, okay, it's a risk for me to open that attachment. I don't open that attachment. I don't want to do that. So it's your call, but it's got to be realized. If you open an attachment, you could be putting that in your system. Via bad links. They occur on all kinds of websites, and you may be thinking you're going to a website that is legitimate. It may not be legitimate. It may look legitimate, but it may not be. So you've got to be watching for pop-ups come on your screen. It says, ask you to do something, click on something. Be very careful. And if you do it, get out of it as fast as you can. Okay? So those are 3 ways you can end up getting it. So what's the best way to prevent getting these virus and malware? And no one technology can cover it all, but the best approach is a layered approach. So you should have an antivirus program to catch the classic threats that have been out there for a while, and also an anti-malware program.
Some number of years ago, they'd start talking on TV about some virus, a Trojan horse, hitting computers and causing all sorts of problems. The thing with the viruses and the malware from a number of years ago is what they would do is they might cripple your computers, and which obviously, especially if you're a business, is a big problem. It seems though that, and it's not to say it's gone away, but it seems that that type of an attack is kind of dropping off a little. It's always going to be there, so you want the different types of antivirus and malware. The thing that's really popping up now and is getting to be about the scariest thing out there is these guys that are doing these programs are finding out, I can make money. How am I going to make money? Well, that's the new one, and that's ransomware. They literally will get your computer, they will encrypt your hard drive and tell you you have 24 hours to come up with some amount of money. 24, maybe 72. This particular one is saying 72. Very generous hacker, giving you all that time. And they want you to send them this money, and they will give you instructions on how to do that. And then what they're going to do is they're going to give you the key to de-encrypt your system. Well, come on. These guys are crooks. They're doing this. You've given them money. Where's their incentive to really get the key to you? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. So this is really an insidious type of thing that has come up. And a number of companies have now started to market an anti-ransomware that look for the algorithms and the kinds of behaviors and monitor that. And so what you want to do is you want to keep your operating system and all of your security updated. Email is one of the main infection messages because you open it, and that clicking, they know, number one, this is a real address, and number two, by opening it, you could launch that going in to start the encryption. One of the things that you want to do to protect yourself is back up your computer. And you cannot back up your computer on that same drive. It's just not going to work. What you have to do is purchase an external drive that plugs in. Windows and Apple both have backup software, although Apple backs up to the cloud. You want to have this off of your computer and then unplug it so that when they attack your computer and encrypt everything, they don't encrypt that second drive. And that's also using cloud services. Like I said, Apple does it. Now, I will tell you right now, I back up my computer 3 ways. 6:30 in the morning, it backs up to one drive. 6:30 in the evening, it backs up to another drive. And once a week, it backs up to the cloud. But I also have 2 hard drives that are clones of my drive. So if somebody hacks and locks my system up, all I have to do is throw in the other hard drive, and I'm good to go. So there are ways to protect yourself. You don't have to be as extreme as I am, but you have to do something to really give yourself some security. So what do you do if ransomware gets you? Call the police, obviously, because this is as much of a break-in as somebody coming through your front door. Don't pay the ransom, because as I said, their goodwill, the goodwill got them hacking your computer. So even if they can't, the police can't, catch these guys because they're not physically there, you have a record of that. And it helps try and develop some of the information as the police feed out and the information, and companies then gather that information to help them spot these types of things to make more effective anti-ransomware. So you have antivirus, anti-malware, and anti-ransomware. And it might seem like a lot. There are some programs that roll this in. However, it's like anything. One company may do well at certain things, another company at something else. I run 6 of them because there are just so many different ways. And so again, your safety net is always your backup. Just like you bought car insurance just in case you had an accident, well, just in case you get attacked, whether it's the traditional virus or ransomware, that backup is like car insurance. So that is your just in case, to make sure that you have that and can recover everything you want and not have to pay and not lose all those precious photos and everything else that we store on our computers. Even if you don't think you use it for a lot like a business, you have got some things. I saw one guy had 20 years of his pictures and lost them all. And you really don't want to see that.
Okay, we've been talking mainly about computers, desktops and laptops, things like that. But what about other devices? Phones, iPads, tablets, devices like that. Well, remember that a smartphone is a computer. And it uses many of the same types of protective programs to shield you. And one of the big things you got to do with these devices is when you see there's an update. If you have auto updates implemented, you should do that, have auto updates. But if it's waiting for you to do something, make sure when you see that, process that update as soon as you can. Many of those updates are to fix security issues with the phones or the pads. So, are any other phones, any of the two main phone types safer than the other ones? And you have two main operating systems. Apple phones use the iOS operating system, and Samsung, LG, Google use Android. Now, in the world, Android is much larger. 85% of the market is Android. And if you're targeting someone, well, your biggest threats can be who's using what it was most widely used phones, and it's Android. So that would be kind of a target on their back. And that's why Windows is the most attacked operating system as well. There's a difference in the design between the two, Apple iOS and Androids. Google designed Android to be more open for maximum flexibility. And that's lots of benefits to users and developers by doing that, but it also means that the platform you're using is more open to attack. And Apple uses a closed platform, and they called it a walled garden. And think of a garden with a wall around it. That's kind of what they do. It's a closed system, so the carrier or the service provider has a lot of control over that application content and restricts access as well to non-approved applications or content. So bottom line, both can be hacked, but the bottom line is Android is the biggest target for hackers by far. So here is some settings that you could use to help secure your iPhone, iPad, and some of these you've probably already done. Some of them you may not. You may want to consider them. I mentioned number 2 there, making sure your automatic iOS updates are turned on. Set a strong device passcode, not like 123 or something like that. Switch to a 2-factor authentication, which more and more businesses are going that way. And you've probably happened to you where you go onto a site and they send you a text message or a call you or something or email to you that you authenticate that you are really the person doing something. So that's a 2-factor authentication. And there's also a feature in there to change your reused passwords. It has a feature called auditing, and it will watch that for you. There's a lot of detail here, but those are interesting. You can go again online and take a look at this slide that we've recorded, and you can take a look at it on your devices. Android phones are a lot of the same things you need to do. You buy smartphones from vendors who release your patches quickly. Not all of them will release those patches. So if you buy from somebody, a small computer company, a small phone company, they may not release the patches as quickly as Samsung would. So that's something to watch. Lock your phone, 2-factor authentication. Try to use apps from the Google Play Store. They've been vetted a bit. We've talked about, we'll be talking about VPNs. Turn off connections when you don't need them. And if you don't use an app, just uninstall it. Very simple things to do. Back to you.
Okay. We're showing a slide of, it's a graphic presentation of just what the web is, because it's kind of we can't touch it, we can't see it or anything like that. So really, what is it? Well, the web is, think of it in 3 parts, and much like this graphic, it's very similar to an iceberg. We deal on the surface, which is the cloud, and when you send out your emails, and you just do all the things where you type in some web address, in your browser and go there. There's a second part of the web, and that is called the deep web. Now, the deep web, you need different software to even access, because the deep web functions for business. This is where the banks and the medical records and all the things are transacted. So that is layered away from the net as you would see it. And so this is where, again, unless you have the software, special browsers, if you will, to access that and know those very specific addresses, this is not something you're going to do. But when you do a PayPal, you know, you buy something and you do PayPal, PayPal is running that not on the surface web, but they're running it on the deep web to help protect. So that's where all of that is running. The government resources, the academia, and so on, all your businesses are running. But there's another part, the dark web. And the dark web is a much nastier place. You wouldn't survive very long at great depths. Well, you don't want to go deep into the web either, because it's absolutely crushing there. What's there? Hackers, where you can get anything. I'm going to just cover, because I covered the first two, the dark web is, again, there's special software to get to it. And think of the dark web as almost a bazaar where people set up kiosks or whatever to sell stuff. What are they selling? Guns, kids, drugs, murders, you name it. If it's illegal and so on, that's where people are going to go to find these things, is on the dark web. Now, the dark web will collect all sorts of things. They will go, the people that frequent that will go and they'll put together a whole package. When you go for credit, they ask for security questions, street that you lived on, and all these other things. Mother's maiden name, high school, and everything else. These are all public records. So what they do is they gather up all these public records. Quick aside on that, if you're ever trying to travel and you're in Europe and you're trying to come back and you're at the gate and you've lost your passport, how are you going to get home? Well, they're going to ask you security questions. They'll give you 4 cars. Which one did you own? They know the answer because they look it up. So there are these random questions. In the dark web, they gather that information so that they can take your social security number and they package it with those security questions, and they have this really nice package that they have, which is you. And so this is out of AARP. They were talking to a couple guys that have reformed, and one of them was talking about how somebody on the web decided to go legitimate and was selling these packages for $2.95. That's how much you're worth. So you want to, on your dark web, your basic safeguards, freeze your credit bureaus, which we'll cover next time, monitor all your accounts, and we'll cover that, and use the password manager. That's yours. I'll let you cover it.
Your home security on your wireless network. You should refrain from giving your password out. You can sign your guests in yourself, which is a good idea. I've never thought of doing that. Now I will do that. But I also just set up a guest network. It was very easy to do, and it's something you should consider. So, and they would have access to only the internet, so it stays away from everything else in your house. Place your router in the middle of your home. People can't be outside trying to access it. Disconnect the router when not in use, and use a boring network name. I heard the other day someone actually used the name of a police department for their router name, which I think was pretty clever. Probably wouldn't click on that. Use a VPN, virtual private network, and keep your router current. I think this is a perfect one for Teleco Village. How long after walking into someone's house is it acceptable to ask for their Wi-Fi password? Not long, I think. Okay. VPN, I mentioned that a minute ago, virtual private network. You can think of this as a tunnel. It's a tunnel between your computer and where you're connected to shield you from hackers. There is a fee for this. And usually there's a little bit of slowing on your system if you do this. HTTPS, and why should I care? What is it? It's Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. It's a way to secure a pipeline between you and where you're trying to get to, and it basically helps prevent hackers from listening on eavesdropping on what you're doing. In a simple way to see this is when you go to a website, and this happens to be American Express, you'll see on the web address HTTPS, and on the left side you'll see a lock symbol. So if you see these things, generally it's a secure line, and you should be somewhat confident that that will go through and not be hacked. So if you don't see that, then question what's going on here before you put your information into the system. Okay, conclusion here. The main point is you need to take charge to keep you safe on the internet. And some key points to take away from today's presentation, and there's some simple things to do as well. Use strong passwords and keep them current. Always keep your security software up to date. If you get a notice that it should be updated, update as soon as possible. Be careful online. Don't click on suspicious links. Make sure your financial information is to be entered on a secure HTTPS link and lock symbol. Now, there are no 100% guarantees of keeping safe. For every lock made, there is someone immediately trying to pick in and break it. Keep a strong password on your home network. Consider setting up a guest network if you haven't done already. Think about a virtual private network. Again, a secure pipeline to protect your communications. And lastly, as Ken talked about this, as a safety measure, remotely back up your computer any valuable data that could be lost if a ransomware attack were to happen to you. In summary, I know we've covered a lot of ground here today, but hopefully we've achieved our goal of not scaring you, but making you aware of some of the potential risk and what you can do. And it will be easier to protect yourself being knowledgeable in these issues. Okay. So we've mentioned that the information, the presentation, and also additional information will be available on the HOA website. And you go in the HOA news down to the general meetings, and it'll be in that area. So it'll be up there in probably a week. It'll be up there, loaded up, so you can look at it then. Why don't you cover this about that, don't you?
Okay. We're also going to put it on the TVCUC website as well, and so that you have access to it. In the upcoming, we're going to be covering the more mobile side of things, which are your iPhone and shopping and so on, and some basics. So be looking for more information coming up. This is really important to keep you guys safe. And one last thing, if anybody does have any questions, I will be around afterwards.
And don't forget the Telco Village University. They have classes as well that in the areas. For instance, they had one on iPad, iPhone, online shopping, and Windows 10 Basics. So there's many ways of getting education on this.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was certainly some stuff that I didn't know about. So now I can go home and look at making things much more secure. Thank you. Very informative. Next, we have Beth Kaburka, who's the POA Marketing Communications Director. And she's going to tell us about the people that sit at the Welcome Center, introduce us to them and what they do. Beth?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm going to talk to you real quick about the Welcome Center, and I'm going to try really hard not to talk fast because I have been accused of doing that a time or two. So I'm going to try to read my notes, so that'll slow me down just a little bit. The Welcome Center opened in October of 2015, and we are open 7 days a week. A lot of people didn't know that. We take off a few holidays. It serves as the first impression for Tellico Village for visitors and also for property owners who are new that are looking for information. In 2018, we welcomed over 8,100 people into the center, and 4,600 of those were for marketing-related visits. We offer over 50 club and area brochures, trail maps, event calendars, and the COPS form, which is very important. We also serve as a drop-off location for several organizations, like the Lions Club, who just put in the drop box behind the Welcome Center, which has been a great addition. People don't have to get out of their car in the rain and whatnot, and they can just drop off the pill bottles and the eyeglasses and all the great things they collect. We also sell GPS waterproof maps of the lake. A lot of people didn't know that, so if you need one, you can stop by and grab one. We have extra directories as well as the Tellico Village license plates. Now I'm going to introduce you to some of our staff. These are all part-time receptionists. Marilyn Galbraith, Sharon Jones, that's a picture of her with her granddaughters, and then Christy Jones, who is an intern. She is a senior at Sequoia High School, and she's looking at going into media relations, so it's a good fit for us. Also, we have two property owners who have pretty much been with us since the beginning. Carolyn Neagley and Carol Sweeney, they volunteer at the front desk on the weekends. We couldn't do it without them, that's for sure. The Welcome Center is also used by more than 60 tour guides who help do the Discovery program. They use it to start their tour. They donate their own time and gas to giving prospects tours of Tellico Village. So if you're interested in doing that, you can see me after the program. We're always looking for a few people to join us. Now we're going to get into some of the specific staff members. This is Summer Macon, and she's been with the POA since 2014, and Summer oversees the Discovery program. And what that is, it's packages that we offer people who are looking at coming to visit Tellico Village for the first time. We have 2-night packages where they can stay on-site or off-site, or they can just do a day tour where they come in and experience Tellico Village, which is really the goal of that. Last year, we received 711 discovery requests. Well, what does that really mean to you? It means for every one of those requests, a minimum of 6 correspondences each goes out to try to convert them into a final booked package. We completed 562 packages last year, and that is a lot of work and requires someone who is very, very organized. I always refer to it as herding cats. And that's really what Summer does, and she does a great job at it. That's Summer in the middle with her 2 kids, Lindsay and Jaden. Next up is Lisa McCrae. Lisa oversees several programs that are kind of underneath the POA umbrella. Those include Tellico Village University, Stay in TV, Tellico Village Broadcasting, the Golf and Food Service departments. She is their admin and their webmaster, and I think she does pretty much any little task they need help with. She also manages all of our social media. She plans and implements special events for the POA, and by trade, she is a professional photographer and takes almost all the pictures for the POA's use. That is Lisa in the very middle of her 4 children. She kind of looks really small, but she's actually tall. Amanda Parks is our newest addition. She joined just last month. Amanda has a master's degree in English and in professional writing, so we are very excited to have Amanda on board. She is the writer and editor of all things POA, including the Telegram, the POA newsletter, all website content. She edits correspondence from other departments, and she manages the Televents and POA 101, just to name a few things that she does. And that is me on the far right. I am not standing in a hole. Yes, my children are very tall. They really are mine and my husband's, and we don't know where the height came from. So as you can imagine, those are questions that I get a lot. What do? I don't really know what I do. I do a lot of things, and I'm very busy, but overall, I oversee the Welcome Center and all the operations that are associated with that. I oversee the Realtor and the Builder programs. I manage and sell all POA lot inventory. I work with the Communications Advisory Committee on communication objectives. We are also in the need of a few good people. So, hint, hint, anyone who might be interested in joining the Communications Committee can see me after we're done here today. I'm also part of the Marketing Ad Hoc Committee that oversees the entire marketing program, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in just a few minutes. I handle public relations, event planning, and any special project that Winston wants me to do. So I have a really fun job. Wanted to share with you some internal communications that you may not have seen. We opened and launched a new website back in November for specifically the property owners. That's telcovillagepoa.org. You have to register to access this website, so if you've not been there in a while, you will need to register as a new user for the first time. It will not remember your old username and password, but it's very easy to register. If you have any hang-ups, feel free to call me at the Welcome Center or stop by and I'll help you get in there. Also, the POA app. It's available on the iPhone and the Android App Store. You just search for Telco Village. It's a great tool for quick access to the website, and golfers love it to book Chelsea tee times. Also, the Telegram. If you do not get this, this is the POA's #1 source of news. It comes out every single Tuesday and also has the tele-events attached to it. And every other Friday, a special edition comes out with the board agenda for the upcoming meeting, and sometimes we add special news that we need to share with you also on that Friday. And then those to the right are some of the other marketing websites that we oversee and help. Now we're going to briefly talk about the National Marketing Program. Oversight, kind of what's included in that. We have a national digital campaign, and what I mean by digital is pretty much anything to do with the internet. If you search for something, you ever went and looked for some shoes when you go to a couple websites and then all of a sudden every website you visit, that ad pops up and it's like, hey, here's these shoes, have you bought them yet? Well, that's kind of what I do. If you've come and visited Telco Village and you think, oh, I want to live there, then I just kind of follow you around the web. And we're pretty good at converting those people to getting a lead. We also visit real estate trade shows. We've already been to 4 this year, to include Chicago, Philadelphia, Stamford, Connecticut, and Tysons Corner, Virginia. They were very well attended, and we brought back a lot of great leads. We also have magazines in Where to Retire, Ideal Living, and the Met Golfer. We have billboards on I-75, I-40, and Highway 321. We have a presence in the Visitor Center, like in Loudoun County, Facebook and Twitter, and then we have a separate website for marketing needs called telcovillage.org. I know it's a little dark picture, and you'll probably be able to see it better online, but that is 2 weeks ago with Mitzi Lane, who's our continuous improvement manager, and Summer, who works with me at our last trade show. You can see our booth in the background and our nice little tablecloth that we use to represent Telco Village. And then over on the right is the Discovery package. I know you cannot read it from your seats, but you'll be able to read it later. And why we wanted to share that with you is because we know you have friends and family who might be interested to come to Telco Village. Maybe you didn't know that we have marketing packages that include a nice magazine, a site map, and an invitation to come and visit Telco Village on one of these Discovery packages. So you can mail those to your friends, or we'll be happy to mail it for you, because our goal is to always continue to tell them it's better at Telco Village. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Beth. Just before I invite Joe Bogardus up to give us a quick update on the marketing team effort, I would like to just acknowledge some of the people in the audience. We've got, if you haven't yet met him, Lowell Russell, our state representative. Thank you very much for coming. Henry Cullen, the chair of the Loudoun County Commissioners. And we have a couple POA board members, Bruce, Pat, and Carla, if I'm not missing anyone. Thank you also. Joe?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joe Bogardus, and I'm a member of the Telco Village marketing team. As you will see, we love data. And we're here to share that with you. But first, let me tell you about our marketing team. Beth, of course, is a key member. One thing that Beth failed to tell you is that the bulk of her career, she worked for one of the leading companies in the active adult community industry, and she brings a wealth of industry experience to her role here in Telco Village. my friend and colleague, Fred. Fred Toucher, stand up. Fred, stand up. Fred is a village volunteer and unpaid marketing consultant. Fred's experience includes brand management, but the bulk of his career he spent as a principal and for one of the leading independent advertising agencies in the country. I am also a villager, a volunteer, unpaid marketing consultant. My background, I worked in brand management, advertising, public relations for 2 legacy brands and a major advertising agency. Tom Lee is new to our team this year. Tom is a villager. He's a former board member. Tom's experience is primarily, he spent a lot of time in the military, and after his military career, he managed major country clubs and properties of that type. And a very valued member of our team is Tombras Group. They are an independent advertising agency based in Knoxville, and they provide digital marketing and branding for our program. 2018 was a great year for Tellico villagers as homeowners and also as members of the Property Owners Association. Tellico Village's MLS sales last year totaled 414. That's a 2% increase over 2017. Interesting, existing home sales were down 6%, but lot sales were up 29%. Like the rest of the country, Tellico Village has been experiencing a very tight existing home inventory. We had, at the end of last year, only 56 homes on the market. We have 4,344 rooftops here in the village. 56 homes represents less than 2% of our market, of our total market on offer. But that's also consistent with the national housing market. Inventory is very tight nationally, and existing home sales were down 7%. We know, because of the tracking that we do, that 57% of all the MLS sales were generated from leads that came from our marketing efforts. We also know, because of a study that we did in 2017, that 82% of all MLS sales were impacted by some element of our communications program. Let's look at that marketing program performance. Out of the 114 sales that we had last year, that 57% of MLS sales represented 235 sales that came through the marketing program. That's an increase of 15% over 2017. Now, the interesting thing is that our program sales, as far as existing home sales, we were up 10%. We had 158 existing home sales from program leads. We also had 77 sales that were lot sales. That was up 20% year over year, 28% year over year, but that also represented 73% of all the lot sales that happened here in the village. That was almost $70 million worth of real estate sales that could be traced to the marketing program last year, an increase of 10 million and 16.7% over last year. Oh, we love this data, don't we? Well, here we are, looking here at, regrettably, we started the program in 2013. 2013, only 13% of all the MLS sales could be traced to the marketing program. And you can see the trajectory over the ensuing 6 years. We really need to thank the existing board, as well as past boards, for trusting the marketing team to let us undertake and continue to invest in the brand, and to continue to ensure that we have this type of success for the village and for us as property owners and also homeowners. Let's talk about our property values. Our property values last year increased 8%. The average unit selling price was up 5%. That's $427,285. The median price increased by 6%. That's $373,500. Most importantly, property values, price per square foot, is at the highest it's ever been in the history of the village, $151.90. Also, time on market is at its shortest duration in the history of the village at 2.8 market. And here's a history, 15-year history, where we started in '04, where we went up, and where we went down, and where we're going now. Let's talk a little bit about the marketing program. When Fred Toucher and I created this program in 2012, this was our overarching objective. It's still the objective that guides our efforts today. To build awareness of the Tellico Village brand and its unique appeals and benefits among national, regional, in-state, local target audience in order to influence the sale of Tellico Village homes and lots and strengthen property values. There are 4 brand pillars that really are the core to our messaging. We talk about our exceptional location in our messaging. We stress our superior amenities, our outstanding lifestyle, and a value proposition that is second to none. Now here this afternoon, I see at least 6 former tours of mine that are in the audience, and they have been propagandized using this type of information and have helped bring them here today. Let's talk about what we did last year. We had 6,462 total leads. A lead is when someone gives us their contact information, their email address, their telephone number, their street address, or some combination, all of that or some combination. Our inquiries and leads were up 13%. Our major growth in leads were primarily through our digital activity. We've made a conscious effort as a team to reduce our footprint in print media and to redirect those resources towards our digital program. And that's paying off. We had a 39% increase in leads. We had a very good year in our trade shows. They were up by 77%. And the Welcome Center, where we get most of our miscellaneous leads, has proved to be a real benefit for us. Conversely, our magazine leads, because again, that was a conscious effort, we are not in as many books as we used to be. Our magazine leads were down 22%. Beth already touched a little bit. The interesting on our completed visits, this is very interesting. We had 562 completed visits last year, which was exactly the amount of people that we had here in 2017, which is really, we didn't plan for that, but that's a real anomaly. So visits were actually flat. The interesting thing, though, was in October of last year, we were running like 22% ahead in completed visits. Normally, November and December are not big months for visitations, but if you recollect, there was a lot of bad weather in the Midwest and the Northeast, and December here was not really a good month for visits either. We have we were pleased that we still welcomed over 1,100 people here, but we were a little disappointed November and December were not better. We also have some other additional program value. We know through the tracking and monitoring that we do that we've had a significant influence on the sale of POA lots. These were non-revenue generating lots. Last year, we had 69 lots sold. We closed on 52 of those. 17 were pending and into 2019. With the county agreement, where we have gotten now hundreds of lots back, the sale of POA lots is really an important aspect of the revenue stream, not only for our program, but also for the village. A point, the 52 lots that we sold in 2018, this year will generate just under $83,000 worth of assessment income that we did not have in 2018. We also know that the marketing program has stimulated village growth overall. Last year, we had 159 housing permits issued, which was an increase of 7% over the previous year, but it was up 71% over 2016. Still, the village, even though it's growing at a manageable rate. In 2017, our rate of growth was 3.7, and in 18, it was 3.8. That is roughly somewhere between 285 to maybe 310 people coming in each one of those years. And those were the highest growth years that we've experienced in the past 6 years. Fees relating to new building permits are a major source of revenue for our POA budget. And those fees have been increased in 18 and 19 and will continue to have an impact on the inflow for the POA. So what does all this cost? Let's look at what we invest in the brand. Last year, our total budget was $405,000. We underran that budget by $1,371. It's the 7th consecutive year that the marketing team has underrun or met that budget. Now, as many of you are former managers, that's an expectation, of course. But not every department, whether you managed it or were involved in, or even here within our own POA, is able to say that over the past 7 years, we've either met or underran our budget. We also have a unique feature to our spending program. We have over 120, last year, we had over $128,000 worth of revenue that came in from realtors, remodelers, home builders. So the net program cost, what it cost all of us, was really $275,000, or $45.84 for the annual program, or roughly $3.82 a month. As my friend Fred likes to say, that's less than what it cost for a bucket of balls at the Tokwa driving range. We also look at cost another way. We look at it as an all-in, if you looked at it this way. Now this is a pretty substantial chart here. On the left-hand side, this is our revenue stream here. You'll see from contractor revenue, all of that kind of thing, $128,000, $128,600. We also take credit here in this particular approach for the net sales of the 52 lots that we sold last year. We have 143 lots that we can trace to our program. So our lot revenue, and that's the assessment income. So our lot revenue is over $266,000. We have all the fees that are associated with those sales, And that's another almost $105,000. So our revenue stream last year, because of our marketing effort, was just under $500,000. On the other side of the slide, our marketing expenses. There's our direct expenses of over $403,000. Marketing team salaries. To be clear, this does not include any salary for Fred or myself. Winston Blazer has talked about tripling Fred's and my salary. Let me see, 3 times 0 equals what? But that's another discussion. Then we also have the various expenses related to the Welcome Center, building expenses and depreciation. So our total marketing expense is $575,000. On this slide, go right to the very end. At the very, very, very little, that little type right at the end. So the total cost, the total revenue was $500,000. Our marketing expense was $575,000. The net cost is $75,000. Using this method, each of our households, it cost us $12.63 or $1.05 a month to support the Tellico Village brand. This is even a little bit more complicated. We love this data. Oh, we love this data. All of us have unrealized value because all of our property values went up, but we did have 289 sales last year. And the average selling price was over $427,000, and the average price per square foot was up 14.4%. The equity increase for all of our homes, was at least $53,000 plus. If you may recall, I talked about being able to track 82% of all MLS sales to the marketing program. So we'll take that as a high end. And we know, based on our data, that 55% of all 2018 sales, 158 existing homes, were sold. So if you look at the high end, you got $12.7 million. You divide that by $275,000. The return on investment at the high end for the people that sold their homes last year were 46.3 times. If you take it on the low end, 55% of all the MLS existing home sales, that generated $8.5 million worth of revenue. Divide that by $275,000. The return on investment is 31.2. We also look at program efficiency. This is really critical to us as a team. We generated 6,400 plus leads last year. You divide that into the 403,000 we spent. The average cost per lead last year was $62.46. This is the lowest in program history. It's down 10% over last year, where a lead cost over $69. But if you take the net program cost, which was $275,000, the lead cost goes to $42.56. This is important because within the active adult community industry, average cost per lead is between $50 and $150. We perform very well in cost per lead comparisons. This is important. The reason it's important because we use cost per lead as a performance signal. This indicates to us, because we're generating so many leads at this cost, that the messaging and the creative that we use in our advertising and public relations and the places where we put those messaging, they are reaching the audience that we're intending to, and it's resonating with them. So now let's talk a little bit about 2019. We want to do 414 home sales, home and lot sales in this as a team. We want to make sure that we have 57% of those sales come from our program. We want to maintain and protect our property values at $151.90. We want to make sure that our neighbors sell their homes within a very reasonable period of time, 2.8 months. And we want to also put on 52, make sure that we sell at least 52 POA lots. Now, these objectives are under a state of continuous review by us as a team. And one of the things that we're doing right now, we have spent a lot of energy primarily under Fred's direction in trying to do a long-term assessment of the real estate market here in the village. This assessment, a white paper, is currently is in draft form, and it's being reviewed by a number of key stakeholders. Depending upon what the outcome is of that lengthy research, we may modify some of those objectives that I just showed you previously. The other thing that we're doing is we're spending a lot of time with Tombras in looking at possible changes in the economy as well as in the housing market, and making sure that our digital performance is where it should be in this changing market. Our internet strategy, we just got some reports yesterday for February and January. Our paid internet strategy, we've done some refinements there, and they are already starting to pay off based on the latest reports we got. We continue to look at telecovillage.org, our website, and bring the content up to speed, change it, make sure that it's responsive to all the various algorithms that the search engines have in place. And one thing we're doing this year is we are making a more concerted effort to reach out to what we call active adult community website aggregators, things like realestatescorecard.com, Southeast Discovery, Top Retirement, 55 Places, and develop stronger partnerships with those particular outlets. So what is this going to cost? Well, this is going to cost $405,000. And we're committed as a team to hitting that budget. This is the third year in a row that we've gone to the board and asked for less money as a team. We will continue to commit to no overspending of our budget. We're going to commit to hit our bottom line performance, and we're going to be diligently and actively managing our program to increase the program efficiencies. So in conclusion, your marketing program is professionally conceived and managed. It's data-driven. It's effective. It's cost-efficient. It's continuously monitored. And it's committed to delivering exceptional return on investment. And as a team, we pledge to maintain this level of excellence in 2019. Thank you.
The dark web. We've heard a lot about the marketing effort, and now we're going to do something that's very endearing, and many of us are familiar with. We'd like to invite the Smoky Mountain service dogs to give us an overview and maybe a small demonstration if we're lucky.
Hi, my name is Mike Kitchens. I'm honored to serve as volunteer chair for Smoky Mountain Service Dogs. How many veterans? Show of hands. Thank you. You're why we do what we do. I'm going to say just a few words, and I'm going to get the dog thing out of the way because you're not going to pay attention to me when we've got two beautiful dogs here today. But our mission is simply to enhance the physical and psychological quality of life for severely wounded veterans. We do that by providing them custom-trained and highly trained mobility assistance service dogs. Typically, our veterans may have received injuries such as limb loss, traumatic brain injury from IEDs, or other injuries where balance and stability are compromised. That's the type of dog that we train. It's the type of individual that we serve. I'd like to have a demonstration now in just a second with one of our dogs, Hooligan, and he will demonstrate for you some of the tasks that all of our dogs are trained to do. And I encourage you, as you observe what you see, to think about a veteran that's a double amputee or a veteran that has a balance issue. Many of our veterans also suffer from PTSD, so you've got the buddy thing going on with the dog also. This particular dog I'm going to introduce, Hooligan, was named by the parents of a young man who sacrificed his life in serving our country, and their platoon in Afghanistan were the hooligans, and they took great pride in that. They were the biggest, baddest thing around. I'd like to introduce Lori Burt, who handles Hooligans. She's our board member and also heads our community events team. Lori and Hooligan.
He's already up. Come on, Hooligan. So this is Hooligan. He is a black Labrador retriever. He's going to be 5 years old next week. Wait. So a big part of what all of our dogs do is picking up dropped items. Oh. Yes. I started off with the hard one with the credit card. So what they do is when they finish eating, they are taught to pick up their bowl. Good boy, good boy. Turning on a light switch or off a light switch, as Mike mentioned, imagine you're a double amputee or anybody that has an issue with getting up to turn the lights on or off. Come here, sit. Lights. So anytime you need to send your dog away from you and you're out in public, so you've needed to drop the leash, we don't want you to have to bend over to pick up that leash either. Leash. So because all of our dogs do spend a lot of time in public, it's important that they know a lot of basic positioning skills. Hooligan, left. Left. If you can't see, we're working on kind of a small non-skid mat up here, so he's having a little trouble with the positions. Right. All the way. Right. Come on. Attaboy. Okay. So those are just a few of the over 50 tasks that all of our dogs learn before they leave us. Thank you. Oh, what? And there's one more. Yes.
Actually, the telephone, that could be a lifesaver. We had a veteran that fell. He would get dizzy, migraines, and pass out, and he fell. When he came to, his dog Copper, he had fallen into bifold doors, and he had a door on him. When he came to, the dog had retrieved his medicine bag, his pull-up rope, his cane, his telephone, and was licking him in the face. So with that, I'm going to go through 3 or 4 slides quickly. We own 10 acres that we purchased in 2015, paid for it in 2016. We don't believe in doing anything on debt with our donors' money, so we're a pay-as-you-go. We currently own that property. The Tellico Village Woodworkers did this beautiful sign. Mark, or excuse me, back here. Next slide. We have a wonderful, beautiful veteran, we'll call it, where we honor all military branches, including the National Guard that gets forgotten, and that's fully landscaped now. It's a beautiful thing when you go on that little road and do this and come over that hill and see that memorial. It's just incredible. We have broken ground right now. It's, everything's weather dependent. We have a huge mud hole over there, but this is the future for Smoky Mountain Service Dogs. Currently, we have a 6-dog kennel, caretaker home on that property. We hope by Veterans Day this year to have this facility completed. Jim Goyer is our facilities development lead. He and our board architect, Bill Taylor, have done just a yeoman job in getting us to this phase. We have an 18-dog kennel, a veteran canine training center with a platform overlook where we can have people come and observe the training. We're so blessed in 2017. I know many of you are familiar with the movie The American Sniper and Chris Kyle. His parents, Wayne and Debbie Kyle, and his Marine veteran brother, Jeff, have the American Valor Foundation, and they support one charity per year with a 3-day Chris Kyle Memorial Benefit in Fort Worth, Texas. And in 2017, they selected Smoky Mountain Service Dogs. It's a big deal. They came up to our fundraiser and brought us a check for $225,000. And with that, we used as seed money to kick off our More Wags for Warriors campaign to raise the funds to build this facility. And we've done that. We're excited about building it. There's our dirt. But we've had the surveyors out. Everything is staked off now by elevation. Morton Building is starting to prefab the building. And so it's going to be a busy year on that piece of property. And we're all very excited about it. We do what we do. We're a little bit different for a nonprofit. We have no administrative cost. We have about 150 volunteers that assist us in doing everything from mowing the 10 acres to writing grants to keeping books. We have 4 wonderful, wonderful world-class trainers that train our canines. They're the only paid employees that we have, so we can tell a donor of $1.95 is going to go where you want to see it go, to serving, to the care and training of the dogs and serving of the veterans. Our main thing now as leadership is to build and sustain. We're going to build it, and then we're working very hard to get in a position where it will sustain itself over the long haul. We've been blessed also by people in the community like Weigels and Pilot Flying J, Altered State out of Maryville. We have people that assist us each year, and we plan to build on that to sustain what so many volunteers here have worked hard to develop. You have a unique opportunity. The way our process works is after we have an applicant that's approved and we've done a home visit on that veteran, we come back and match them with the dog that we think is the skill set best matches that veteran's need. They come to us for 10 days of team training with their dog. We have to introduce them to the dog. We have to train them. The dog's already trained. We have to teach them what the dog knows. And so currently we have a veteran that came in last Sunday. He is out of Indian Mound, Tennessee. He was 20 years Army, Special Forces, helicopter pilot out of the 160th Aviation Regiment in Fort Campbell. They were the Night Stalkers. Their specialty is combat nighttime operations, and he did a lot of that. We've matched him with a wonderful dog, Dagger, named after Task Force Dagger, which was the first military operation Special Forces after 9/11, and they're doing great. We plan their graduation here next Thursday at 1 o'clock. That allows us to honor the veteran, the canine, the trainers, the donors, and all the volunteers that helped prepare that dog for its life of service as the battle buddy for this veteran. So come join us at 1 o'clock. I get emotional now. You can tell that? Come next Thursday. Okay, and I'd like to close. We'll be available out around the table. Dick Schussis here, and he just redid some video work that I did, and I'll tell you, you're going to see a world-class introduction of your Smoky Mountain Service Dog family. So Mark, if you could, please.
I've been a walking heartache, I've made a mess of me. The person that I've been lately ain't who I wanna be. But you stay here right beside me and watch as the storm blows through, and I need you. 'Cause God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt, and for when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you, gave me you. There's more here than what we're seeing, a divine conspiracy. That you, an angel lovely, could somehow fall from me. You'll always be love's great martyr, and I'll be the flattered fool, and I need you. Yeah, God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt, and for when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. On my own I'm only half of what I could be. I can't do without you. We are stitched together, and what love has tethered, I pray we never undo. 'Cause God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt, and for when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you, gave me you. 'Cause God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt, and for when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you, gave me you. He gave me
Thanks, Mike, and Hooligan also, right? Okay, now we've got just general question and answers. We'd invite you to ask questions of any of the people that presented today. So Linda, I think, and somebody else will have mics. Just raise your hand if you've got a question, please, and we'll get it to the one of the speakers.
Is this on? Yeah. Question for Mike. Smoky Mountain Service Dog, is this a single standalone organization, or are you part of a national organization, or should the question be worded differently?
Can you? Okay. Now, actually both. We're standalone, other than we are accredited by Assistance Dogs International, which is the accreditation for service dogs. To become accredited, you have to submit a huge set of standards. They send an assessor with us for 3 days. They go through all your bookkeeping, your training methods, your financials, and everything before you're accredited. Accredited ADI members in the North America, there are around 115 to 120. About half of those are in the U.S. That includes Guide Dog Foundation. That includes other service dog organizations. With the 12 states around Tennessee, we are the only one that is headquartered in that area serving veterans.
Anybody else? Any other? Then, if we can just go back one mark, please. We have another HOA general meeting Thursday, May 23rd. It's going to be a presentation by the TVA on river and dam water management, and also cybersecurity part 2. So you may just want to mark your calendars. But thank you very much for coming, and I want to thank the presenters. I think it was very well done and informative.